Welcome to Articulated, where we analyze action figures from paint to pivot. I'm Glenn.
I'm Eddie.
And this is the Medicom Mafex No.75 Spider-Man. If you didn't already know, Spider-Man aka Peter Parker was created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko in 1962's Amazing Fantasy No. 15, eventually spinning off into his own series, The Amazing Spider-Man.
Utilizing his genius-level intellect, Peter invented wrist-mounted web shooters he uses to swing around the city and create web constructs like parachutes, and, much like a spider, is able to cling to most surfaces.
The figure itself is based on his appearance within the pages of The Amazing Spider-Man during the 1990s, following the departure of the famous artist Todd McFarlane.
Specifically, this figure seems to take the most inspiration from Mark Bagley's design, who took over the title in 1991 with issue 351.
While this figure might be number 75, Spidey is only the second comic figure released by Mafex following the release of Gwenpool last year, with the likes of Deadpool, Venom, Wolverine, and Cyclops to follow.
Out of the box, Spider-Man comes with 2 additional heads, a squinty-eyed variation based on what looks to be Eric Larson's artwork, the artist who took over for Todd McFarlane with issue 329 in 1990, and an unmasked Peter Parker head with a complementary mask that seems oddly small.
In addition, Spidey comes with 6 pairs of alternate hands, relaxed, fisted, thwipping, web-gripping, wall-crawling, and an additional pair of wall-crawling hands with embedded magnets that happen to match the additional pair of magnet-embedded feet.
Finally, Webhead comes with a pair of small and medium web lines, with loops designed to wrap around the web slinger's wrist, a long web line, and another with its end outspread, both designed to be held in Pete's gripping hands.
Oh, and a Mafex stand with an additional peg piece presumably designed to fit the outspread webbing strand as it fits perfectly. This figure is 100% new sculpt. Every web is etched into the body and suit intersections are well defined. The spider logos are raised just like the separations in the white and black of the eyes. The unmasked head gets a neck piece that shows the separation between the mask and the rest of the suit. Webs are cast in their iconic spaghetti strands as popularized by McFarlane.
The sculpt strikes a near perfect balance of form and function. Articulation is mostly well hidden while not hindering the sculpt. Still, there are a few things that stand out.
The most noticeable are the cuts in the inner elbow, how it's divided into 3 pieces. Pivot hinge parts connect the elbow and the arm together, which makes it seem like it could be streamlined into a single piece. Similar to how Legends work, except without the horrid peg sticking out.
The elbow itself continues the sculpt of the webbing, which looks excellent, but it's more than the hinged swivels get at the wrist, ankles, and shoulders. It's somewhat hidden due to the natural cuts of the hinges, following the web line pattern, but they still would have benefited from the continuation of the sculpt, or at least painted like they had.
On proportion, Spider-Man stands 6.1 inches tall, or 15.5 centimeters on the nose. This also happens to be 6.3 heads tall. Not out of the question, but considering Spider-Man was depicted as fully physically mature in the 90s, he should be closer to 6.75 heads tall.
Really, it doesn't make a huge difference. Spider-Man has always had a big head, but the figure is proportionally closer to his teenage self. Otherwise, his arms, legs, and torso are all where they should be, and most importantly, it still looks right.
All that said, this figure is masterfully sculpted and nitpicks barely do any damage to the score, with an amazing 9 out of 10 awarded to Sculpt.
Spider-Man has one of the most iconic costumes of all time. While the hues and saturations have frequently changed over the years, the core design has remained the same.
Mafex has combined paint and colored plastic to achieve the iconic look of the character. Blues and reds have been applied with an overspray that create a nice gradation between the shadows and highlights, bringing out an incredible amount of detail. On the opposite end of the spectrum, web lines are simply cast in white plastic, when they could have used either a gray or light blue wash, like how a wash was used to bring out the depth in the sculpted web lines. Unfortunately, this wash is inconsistent between some joining parts, and color matching inconsistencies being especially apparent between the neck and upper torso, creating a harsh divide between the molded pieces.
Unfortunately, this extends to interchangeable parts and joints. The hands especially don't have web lines as dark as the forearms, and the unpainted ball joints of the wrist and ankles stuck out like a sore thumb, more so on the latter. Perhaps if these joining pieces were cast in a slightly darker red, or continued the painted web lines as mentioned before, it would have looked better.
In terms of source material, the 90s reintroduced a slightly darker color scheme, which the figure reflects, but it's seemingly not quite as saturated as it should be, at least in the blues.
Especially when compared to the promo images, or images on the box itself, which are much lighter, more vibrant blue. Although it isn't too hard to match the vibrancy in a coloring program, so perhaps the actual color was artificially enhanced in those images.
Still, the paint looks great, and the colors still work together, earning Spidey a solid 8 out of 10. Spidey sports between 26 and 36 points of articulation depending on how you count them. There's a lot of articulation, and what's there is cleverly engineered.
So, the head and neck are both on double ball pegs, providing excellent movement and allowing you to switch out both pieces separately.
The torso is much the same, divided between the upper, mid, and lower by 2 double ball pegs.
The upper torso also sport what look like butterfly joints, but are really ball joints, allowing for extra movement in almost all directions.
The shoulders connect to these butterfly-like joints with ball hinges and a cut at the bicep.
The elbows are properly double jointed, and the hands attached to the forearm with ball-hinged swivels.
The legs are interesting. The outer thighs are attached to an inner thigh swivel that attach to the hips using what I can only describe as drop ball pegs. This allows for better maximum range of motion when the thighs are flexed completely upward, with the ability to articulate away from the hips.
Knees are double jointed, and the toe-hinged feet rest underneath ball-hinged swivels similar to the wrist.
All in all, and while it's not Reveltech level, Spider-Man has excellent articulation, deserving a very strong 9 out of 10.
In short, Mafex has created the closest we've ever come to a definitive Spider-Man action figure, and if you are a big fan of the 90s, this could very well be it.
The biggest point of contention with this figure is the price point at 8,000 yen, or about $70 if you're in the States, which can turn into over $100 if you want this thing in any reasonable amount of time. I hate to say it, but unless you're used to paying this price or you think this is your end-all be-all Spider-Man, Marvel Legends makes a pretty dang good alternative. Even if they come with less accessories and paint detail, they're a fourth to a fifth of the price.
All in all, Spider-Man earns a combined score of 8.7 out of 10, with a personal tilt of 10 out of 10, leaving an alternative score of 9 out of 10, narrowly hitting the mark of plastic perfection.
Thanks for watching the pilot to our brand new series of action figure reviews.
A lot of work and planning went into this video, so we really hope you like it, and you can expect future content with the same level of quality.
If you like this video, consider subscribing, and if you have any feedback, please feel free to reach out in the comments. Hail Hydra!